Thanks, guys. I'm here with aphromoo after that 3-1 victory, and I've got to say, you guys look so good in this series, and some shout outs from the fans there. But coming into this series against TL, did you guys feel as confident as you looked on stage? You guys looked like it was very, very one-sided.
Yeah. We had a little bit of fun with our cinder block hide and seek challenge that we had for 2 weeks, where our coach hit it on the CLG property, and we struggled to find it until the last day. We didn't know where the hell it was, so we just went through, you know, like mock uphill battle of struggling, frustration, and being down where we can't figure out, you know, where to go. And playing against Team Liquid, we definitely had to learn the cinder block lesson, which is unity, and the brick was just ourselves. So it was cool playing against Team Liquid. I do think they're still a good team, but just that they don't really have, you know, like a leader type figure where they can rely on them and come through with the game.
And speaking of leaders, you know, you yourself are a guy who has been a leader for CLG for so long. You know, we talk a lot about the poise, the teamwork that you guys have, and I think a lot of that credit has to go to you. And coming into this game, you know, how do you keep your team level-headed? How do you keep focused, and you know, whether you're winning or losing, keep the team together and keep working towards that kind of ultimate goal?
It's a struggle, definitely, but the guys also bring me up as well. And outside of the game, I'm pretty sure we're just like super caring and looking out for each other all the time. And all it is about translating that in game. You know, frustration is going to happen and stuff like that. But it's important to know that we're just here to improve and win, just like anyone else, and we're not like out to get each other or anything like that. So I think that's very common aspect of our team that definitely is shown in everyone.
I agree completely. And now looking forward to next week, a rematch of last Splits finals against TSM. You guys obviously on the quest to win 3 straight splits, first ever team that would do it. And who better to face off than TSM in the semifinals to get there? How do you like your chances, you know, going forward into that match? Are you guys feeling confident?
Playing against TSM, yeah, we're definitely confident. Playing against them last split, we were just as confident as well. But TSM is a very, very good team. And it sucks that we had to face them in the semis. I would have liked to play them in Toronto for the finals, but it's just going to make that match much more exciting since we had to play 2 more matches when we knew it.
Well, congratulations. You guys are going to Toronto. Either way, just have to find out if it's going to be the finals or that 3rd place match. Best of luck to you next weekend against TSM. We're going to send it back to the guys at the desk.
Thank you, Azael and aphromoo, for the interview. Once again, I mean, aphromoo, no stranger to the playoff experience here, but as Azael mentioned, they're going to have to rematch their finals matchup or just to make it to the finals this time around. So definitely an uphill battle for them ahead. But once again, I want to close out this series as we were discussing this 4th game victory for CLG. And I want to dive back into it now from the gameplay side of things. We hit the pick ban. We saw some new things come out. In particular, we saw more focus back to the bot lane, true to game 3. However, this time around, CLG is the team that comes out ahead of the bot lane pressure.
Right, I mean, it was a very tragic start to the game. They were trying to push in. They had won the level 2 trade again, but this time it's going to be Xmithie who makes the first stop down here, and they're able to just get a good flank off and hop right onto them. It's so hard to get away from here. I like the decision to try and turn and fight. It's just unfortunate.
Capitalizing on the blown flash from Ashe at level 1.
Yeah, so it was a good try, but it doesn't work.
Good try here. This next move is more than questionable, Zyrene.
Do not try this at home, kids.
Don't try this on LCS stage either, actually.
Yeah, never tried it.
Yeah.
Blind. That's
ambitious.
disrespect. That's disrespect. Honestly, thinking that he can pull that off. aphromoo sits on the side, knows that he's out of range, and even here, goes for the cannon minion kill, tries to get some HP back because of Strength of Ages, but instead it's not enough, and maybe the barrel would have been better on a slow there, because that was pretty much a max range auto.
Yeah, I mean, Stixxay even kept walking forward because he's like, I might need another one.
Right.
And so after that, though, it is hard to recover from
Well, that was 3 kills and double buffs going over to Stixxay. So, right, you know, a lot of times we might see 3 kills traded in an early game scuffle, but, you know, it's 3 of them go to the support. Just like 3 kills ended up on Matt in this game, right? And it's like, okay, well, the gold's not going to the right person. Well, the gold went to exactly the right person here in game 4, the Sivir, and then comboed with the likes of the Olaf and the Aurelion Sol. We saw the potency of, you know, the Sivir behind those unstoppable champions in terms of CC.
Yeah, super good against the Ashe as well. The Olaf getting speed buffed in. I mean, it's pretty much Ashe's worst nightmare. You can't arrow him away. If you do, it's a panic move. And even beforehand, the arrow, he'll pretty much just soak it every time. And he got a Banshee's Veil just to double down on that.
Right, so that only jumps us to 16 minutes into the game where it essentially breaks open and it spells disaster for Team Liquid. CLG is going to get a pick off on 3 in the mid lane, plus a tier 2 turret here. So lots of gold influx on what was already a pretty significant lead for them. Starts off with aphromoo ult.
Yeah, it's such a huge ultimate. It's unfortunate Darshan's Meganar runs out right then, but it's enough to pick up 2 kills basically instantly, and it sets up the mid turret to be able to be taken. This was coming right after a close defense by Team Liquid, and this is really what blew the game open. CLG had been out-moving them on the map, and then Fenix just missed positions a little bit, gets hit by an axe, which sets up Huhi to go in for the final kill, ends up being a 3 for 0. And it's just so hard to come back from even that initial play bottom. Normally you'd want to swap topside. The people who ended up swapping topside were CLG, and it was even before 5 minutes before the fortification dropped off. And it just shows a team that's willing to push what you would think is the right thing to do.
It also means that they've actually pushed the limits in terms of their practice, because if you're swapping top pre 5 minutes, you at least know that you're going to get that turret. They're not going, oh, I don't know if we can take this. They've at least tried it at some point and actually experimented with the difference in timing.
Right. Interestingly, what it did is it forced the Team Liquid reaction. You know, so they didn't actually secure that top lane turret, but they forced a defense by Team Liquid, and it definitely showed once again that CLG was the proactive team on the map.
Right, they would have gotten that turret because it was just the Ashe down there hitting the turret for TL, and so that made Lourlo have to TP up, it made Dardoch have to go up, Fenix go up, and it's just the fact that they seemed to know what was going to happen on the map and could force Team Liquid into situations, because then they just went bottom soon after and took the bottom turret first, and they start getting that snowbally first turret gold.
Yeah, and it's actually showing just a mastery of this patch right now. I mean, it's very new. We've had 2 weeks on it, and people are already pulling out so many new things. And I really love this because even in the lane swap days, people who got the lane swap right, we could see them go through the motions and stuff. And then CLG was always the team that would augment it very slightly. And that showed a complete understanding of why you did what you did in every part of that lane swap and what you can change and what you can't change. So when they're backing on different timers and stuff like that, they still know they'll be able to get away with it.
And I think a lot of how that manifests is that you can tell the team is making a decision. It's not going through the motions, right? When you watch CLG make that decision to swap top at 4:40 instead of 5 minutes, it's very clearly a choice on their part, right? They are looking to change the tempo of the game. It's not a, well, we're following the motions, oops, we fell out of sync with the normal timers, right? And so ultimately, CLG showing somewhat of a mastery. Of course, we'll see how this meta continues to develop with those 6:15 changes, but right now CLG showing that they might be top of the table in NA when it comes to the macro play here in the playoffs.
I mean, at least what we've seen so far, no one else has done anything close to like that. We saw TL attempt it in game 3, and they show up behind the turret, but didn't have a wave going in. It was just very disjointed, whereas CLG, even when they didn't get the turret and Team Liquid was able to defend, they clearly understood what they were doing, and it never hurt them, whereas some teams kind of hurt themselves in confusion trying to keep up.
All right, well, today CLG did show us what it means to play as a team, but of course we are bound by broadcast law to award a player of the series. It was a tough call, but we've got to go with Huhi, and a lot of that is due to the fact that he was able to pick up the likes of Syndra to be a very effective pick in the first couple of games, and then of course the Aurelion Sol still in his back pocket from MSI.
Yeah, ended up pulling two bans for the rest of the games, and then ended up just dominating as well on the Aurelion Sol and having really good roams. I think that was what they weren't expecting, is he was able to affect the side lanes very, very easily, and something that you'd be like, oh, Talia can do that. It's like, he can also do that on Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing where coming into the series, a lot of people are looking at Huhi as potentially a weak point where Team Liquid might be able to abuse, and the fact that that's not the case, he's pulling his own bans, really throws a wrench in Team Liquid's plans where Fenix doesn't have priority, he can't roam as easily, they're using bans that maybe they didn't want to have to use as opposed to targeting other players.
And I think that's very much another factor when you consider who he's against, right? Who he is against, right? In the mid lane, you've got Fenix, someone that we were looking at as one of the two solo laners, a guy who needs to get control of his lane, who needs to run away with it and have the kind of impact throughout the series that Team Liquid needs to come away with a win. And of course, Huhi being flexible in his champion pool this time around did allow him on blue side every game to be blind picking things into matchups that are or aren't advantageous, but coming out on top in a majority of them.
And I think a big point too is just that you need to have like such a team mindset for these kind of rotations that they're doing. It's like everyone has to be on top of it, and having your mid laner never like pushed in and sucking your jungler down there where like, oh, he needs to hold. Like any kind of like loss of pressure really ruins rotations, and Huhi not ever having to be that problem where you're scared of that coming into the series, I think is a huge benefit that let them kind of manipulate Team Liquid.
Yeah, a very selfless player who actually likes to give his resources away. So when it was a mid lane focused meta, it was actually difficult for CLG to give resources to him because he just wants to give everything away. Right. He's like, can I come to your lane? Is
He's
it
been
okay?
conditioned through past seasons of play to be very selfless.
Yeah,
and now we're in a meta where mid laners can have much more effect on the map. We're seeing Talia bans in every single game. I would like to see her come back because she affects the map so much. But in a changing meta, he is doing his best to adapt and so far succeeding. Well, with quarterfinals done, seeding for semifinals is complete. So let's take a look at the bracket. Following their wins this week in Cloud9 and Counterlogic Gaming advanced to the semifinals. As the highest seed to come out of the first round, Cloud9 will face off against Immortals, with defending champions CLG going up against TSM. Now that means that CLG is guaranteed at least 40 championship points, which puts them at a current total of 130. That's at the top of the table. Now Team Liquid are locked in at 50 points, so we'll see them in the regional qualifier alongside Team Envy.